Hello everyone, it's Sylvia from Fairlight Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to have a look at the decks that you can buy with 100 Australian dollars on Amazon Australia. So I don't know if you can tell from my voice, but I'm actually sick. My entire family is sick these days. And I don't know if it's just me, but because it's not COVID, it doesn't feel like you're sick enough not to work. So my husband actually went to work this morning. And it's really weird because everywhere you go, they still ask you, especially if it's, let's say, a clinic or a doctor's, and they still ask you if you have COVID, if you've been in touch with someone with COVID in the last 2 weeks, if you've been overseas in the last 2 weeks. And everything is related and focused on COVID. But you can see people going around with a really bad flu, and I'm really sure they're probably contagious and they're probably spreading the virus, but we're just not focusing on that anymore. And so we're like, okay, well, I'm sick. Is it COVID? No, then okay, then you can go. I don't know. In any case, I'm here, and today we're going to have a look at, we're going to be doing a bit of an unboxing. I have a couple of decks that I want to show you today. There is a deck that I did not buy through Amazon. I actually got it from one of my closest friends in the tarot community here in Australia. So we're going to have a look at that one. But mostly, I always wondered what 100 Australian dollars can actually buy you when it comes to tarot and oracle decks out of Amazon. Now, obviously, you can choose to go to your metaphysical store, your bookstore, and other websites, for example. It just so happened that I had this voucher for $100. And I do have a pretty extensive wish list on Amazon, and obviously you will know that they're all mass market decks. And I thought it would be fun, so let's see. Okay, so this big parcel that doesn't even fit in the frame, sorry about that, just arrived. And I've just opened it from one end, so this is a truly pure unboxing. So let's have a look at what I've got here. I'm just gonna take out the first deck that I find. And it's this one here. Yes, the Wisdom of the Wild Things Oracle. This has been written by Angie Salins, who's, by the way, on fire. I mean, I don't know, but every other deck, especially the ones published by US Games, seem to have been a production by Angie Salins. She's very, very prolific, and I have to say, I like probably 99% of her decks. It's just one or two that I'm not entirely on board, but that depends probably also on the aesthetics. But ever since I've seen this one, and this one has been out for a couple of months, if you don't know that already, if you're not in Australia, you will not know, but basically Australia is one of the last countries on the planet to receive the US Games and Llewellyn decks. We have to wait sometimes 3 to 6 months for a new deck to finally make it to Australia. It's obviously a marketing operation. Australia is unfortunately a small market, so I understand the necessity of releasing the decks in a bigger markets like the US and Europe. It is very sad though, because especially on Instagram, I always look at these really beautiful decks and everyone is raving about them. And, you know, they're on my wish list and the release date is like the 15th of July or the 1st of September. So by the time we actually get to see them, we don't necessarily feel the thrill anymore. You know what I mean? I was talking about this with a friend the other day, and she even sent an email to US Games saying, you know, guys, we don't even feel like buying these decks anymore. And this is a person that has a rather extensive collection, but she's actually, recently she's been focusing on indie decks, because indie decks, believe it or not, are actually released a lot sooner in Australia than mass market decks. And so we feel like we actually have an insight into the market when it comes to indie decks, but we are the last wheel when it comes to mass market decks. It is what it is, but I'm happy to say I finally got this deck. So the Wisdom of the Wild Things Oracle. It is one of the latest ones from US Games. You can tell that from the different kind of openings. So it is a wraparound box with a magnetic closure, and it is rather nice. I actually really do enjoy this kind of opening. It is more practical than the previous one. Let's see, without hurting myself, if I can open this. I love how quirky this is. The artwork is by Eva Boniva. I know that Eva Boniva is also the or at least the illustrator of other decks. Right now, I don't remember which ones, but I remember, reading about Eva Boniva in a different deck. So there remains a remnant of wild magic in this world. Yes, absolutely. Seek it and you will find it. Seek it with all your heart and you will one day become it. Wow, that's amazing. And may I just say, this is so quirky, whimsical, but beautiful at the same time. I love that it comes with an organza pouch. Not that I'm going to use this because, to be honest with you, these ones, it depends on the quality. But I noticed that sometimes it doesn't prevent a deck from getting some humidity through because it's not thick enough. So I actually do prefer other types of bags, perhaps satin, or silk even, or velvet, for example. And okay, so we got a bit of glue stuck to the back of the guidebook and it doesn't really come off, which is a pity because I don't really like these things, but it's obviously nothing that will stop me enjoying this deck. So let's have a look. Okay, full color and a full page for the image of the card. I don't know how many cards this deck has. Let me see if it says anything perhaps on the box at the back. I don't. Okay, 45 silver gilt edged cards and 112-page full-colored guidebook and organza drawstring pouch. 45 cards, yes, we're happy with that. We always say at least 45. P.S. Los Carabel, if you're watching this, please stop releasing decks, Oracle decks, with 30, 32, 33 cards. It's just not enough. We love your deck, so why not making more cards? I mean, we always say at least 44, and that's because most of us use Oracle decks in combination with tarot decks. And when we do that, you can imagine that they don't match up. I mean, we have 78 cards in a tarot deck. Even if we split the deck in two, it's still a lot of cards. And, 32, 33 just doesn't cut it. So, okay, so as we said, 45 cards, 112 pages book. You've seen this deck around already, or at least I've seen it in a few channels. I really like it. At the beginning, I have to say, I was a bit on the fence because I was worried about this deck being a little bit too quirky. I wouldn't really know what to pair it with. But now that I've got it, I don't think that that is the case. I think that this reminds me a lot of Brian Froud's art style. You know what I mean? Especially one card that I just saw earlier, perhaps this one as well. Not to say that they have fairy vibes, because that would be Brian Froud's realm, but they do share. This one definitely, come on. You can't say that this one doesn't remind you of one of Brian Froud's cards. Mind that monkey, wow. It's going to be really interesting because I'm definitely going to have to look at the guidebook when reading the cards. Not all of the cards have, let's say, talkative kind of messages at the bottom or titles or keywords. This one says embrace effortlessness, which is definitely, it's an excellent keyword or a sentence. I like that. But other cards may not be like that. Light the candle of grace. Remember the wooby? What's a wooby? Remember that blanket you had as a child, the one that comforted you with its mere touch, or the special stuffed animal or toy that connected you to your own ease? Yes, I had a puppy stuffed animal. I think it was a beagle. And I called him Cocky because I was Italian. I'm still Italian. I was, I don't know, 5-year-old back in Italy. And I don't know how I got to that name, but yeah, I don't know if I would have named him now Cocky, knowing what that means, but it is what it is. It was named Cocky and I loved him. And I remember that I used it so much that, eventually it got damaged, it was dirty. And so I think that after a few years, my parents actually finally bought me a new one. It was by a brand that it was called Trudy. And I don't know if it's an international brand, but I can assure you in Italy, 90% of fluffy animals are by Trudy. And it was absolute perfection. I loved this so much. And the second one had to be exactly the same, so my parents had to struggle and find one that looked exactly like Cocky. And they bought me one, they found it, and I called him Cocky too. Because, you know, when you're a kid, you don't want things to change. You want good things to stay the same. So, yes, remember the Wooby. I remember my Wooby. Absolutely. Quiet the Anxiety Monster. This deck is going to be so much fun. I can tell that already. It's going to be a lot of fun pairing it up, and I'm thinking already like the couple of decks that I've got in my collection. But this is an unboxing video, so I don't know if I'm going to show you pairings. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe for the indie deck that I purchased, not out of Amazon. So just to give you an idea, when you have a voucher for Amazon, you can choose to apply it or not, or at least these are the rules in Australia. You can choose whether you want to apply it or not to your purchase. And once you want to apply it, obviously you can also choose whatever you want. There's a really vast range of things on Amazon Australia. The cards, I have to say, I'm doing like this because they're still, it feels like they're still glued to each other, or at least a few of them are. So let me just go through the whole deck and just make sure that they're separate, because otherwise it's going to be a bit awkward when I'm going to show you the cards. So this one, just to keep the tally, this costed me, so this is $36, I don't know if you can tell, this is $36.08 Australian, and yeah, so 36.08. And so let's have a look at the cards. I only watched one walkthrough. Let me just zoom in so we can have a better experience. So beginnings, communion, I like these keywords. Invite your monsters to tea. Wonderful. I love this. This reminds me a little bit of, what was the name of the movie that won the Oscar? I forgot now, but there was a movie, and I think it was by Guillermo del Toro, that won an Oscar a few years back. And it was about this creature that falls in love with a human being, with a woman. Be yourself. Be your quirky self, I would have said. I love this. Transition. Play. I've seen this card many, many times, and it reminds me of some sort of a quirky version of something in between Alice in Wonderland and Little Red Riding Hood. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's a skeleton basically with a dress and a lolly as a head with a skull in there. Let yourself be carried. Oh, that's so sweet. That's very nice. Remember the bones. I am going to have so much fun. So what we're gonna do today, we're just gonna have a look at these decks. But I'm just gonna try and pull a couple of cards, and then we're gonna go to the guidebook and read what it says, because I feel that there's a whole new world in that is presented to you through these cards. Bloom in the Mud. I feel that this one would probably pair up really well with the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot. What do you think? If you have this deck, let me know in the comments below what you think about it, and if you use it in combination with a tarot deck, and which one do you recommend. I think that probably the Joie de Vivre by Paulina Fay and the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot would definitely pair up well. But also I'm thinking other decks that have this sense of innocence and this kind of inner child vibes to them, that would probably pair up really well with these. So other oracle decks as well. I think that maybe the Gentle Creatures Oracle, and also perhaps the Into the Lonely Woods Oracle. And as I said before, I really feel like there's a lot of Brian Froud's art style kind of vibes coming from these cards, and so maybe those ones as well. Actually, let me try. Okay, let's just zoom out because it's gonna occupy a little bit more space. So I wanted to pair it first with the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot because I really feel like we are looking at very similar vibes. And let's see if I'm right. Okay, so I gave the two decks a shuffle, so let's look. And by the way, I really like this format for an oracle card. I know that it's not the standard oracle format. Generally speaking, you will see cards that are slightly wider than this, and probably the same height. But I do feel that it actually pairs up better with this format. It pairs up better with the tarot decks, because generally speaking, tarot decks, you can tell that they have more or less the same size and more or less the same format. And Lo Scarabeo, because the Nicoletta Cecoli is published by Lo Scarabeo, is actually one of those decks that you can use when you're comparing sizes, for example, because more or less, you know, it's the standard. So let's just take a few cards out of this one because it's taller. Ironically, 45 cards, you know. I love it when I can say, oh, let's take away a couple of cards because this is actually taller. This deck is taller than the other two split. It means that it doesn't have 33 cards, it's got 45, which is what we like. So remember the whoopee. Well, there you go. So now I know what it's talking about. So remember the whoopee. Remember the state of innocence and support when everything was comforting for you between the Knight of Wands and the, is it the Queen or the King? The Queen, I believe, of Coins. That's interesting. Welcome the universe. This is the King, between the King of Wands and the Knight, no, the Page of Coins, yes. Quest into the subconscious between the Two of Cups and the Knight of Coins. But let's just have a look at the cards, because I believe that this is what I do, this is my process. So I don't necessarily stop at the meanings, at least not the first time in which I try up a pairing, which seems to point that aesthetics is a point of entry for me when deciding on a pairing, or deciding whether a hunch that I have about a pairing actually pans out or not. But I do believe that there's a lot of echoes here in the two decks. And I mean, if you look at the images, obviously the Nicoletta Cecoli has a very distinct kind of art style. But I do believe that there's a lot in common with at least some of these cards from the Oracle. And I feel that when it comes to aesthetics, at least, because this is really a first impression, I think that we kind of nailed it. Even the colors sometimes actually pair up. You can feel that by the rosy, pink and red colors of the fish here. This is the Page of Cups, for example, and perhaps, you know, the mushrooms in the Restore Innocence from the Oracle. And don your witch hat with the Fool card and the Four of Swords. That's nice. It really feels like it's kind of having a moment here, these two decks. They're having a moment. It's like two friends that haven't seen each other in a while and they finally reconnect. I don't know, let me know what you think, because obviously this is really purely first impression. I just opened the Oracle deck, I looked at the card, and I thought, okay, let me try with the Nicoletta Cecoli. And I think that we are probably on the same realm, even though I really do want to try it out with a Brian Frau deck. So let me just try and see what the results are with. What do I have? I have the Fairies Oracle. I don't unfortunately have the Heart of the Fairy. And thank you so much, by the way. I've had a couple of emails from members of my channel alerting me that there was a Heart of the Fairies deck for sale in one of the Facebook groups. I do, however, think that it was a little bit overpriced, and so I don't think it's sold yet. So if the person selling the deck is going to lower the price a little bit, I might actually reach out, because it's, you know, there's it is a mass market deck. Of course it is an out of print deck, but there's only so much that I'm willing to spend on a deck. Although I have to say, it would probably qualify as a unicorn deck. So we'll see, we'll see. I don't know, maybe. Okay, so let me see. We've got the Fairies Oracle. And so let me see, how do I do this? I'll probably put them side by side, like this. Well, let me see, because we've got enough cards. I think they have more or less the same amount of cards. And I just want to try this out because I really want to see whether there is something there. Is there the same kind of vibes? I don't know, I think we can definitely say that. Perhaps not all of the cards, but they do feel very similar. Let me just zoom in. They do feel very similar, I have to say. I really like these two, the vibes that we get. Sorry, by the way, this one I didn't even shuffle it properly. Okay, now I shuffled it, so I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, because I think there's something here. Don't you think? It would be probably best for me to get back to this pairing after I read the guidebook for the Wisdom of the Wild Things Oracle, because when you put these two together, you don't necessarily have much coming out of the keywords, I have to say, especially because the Brian Froud deck seems to be mostly about archetypes. So the journeyman, be yourself and the journeyman, yeah, that definitely resonates with me, because if I am one of these archetypes, I definitely recognize myself as the journeyman. So be yourself is an invitation to rely on that, to believe in myself. The Bright Mother with Play. I like these two together, perhaps not these cards. So there's two types of cards in the Brian Froud deck. It feels like these cards are so very abstract that they don't necessarily communicate a lot to me. Perhaps this is where I should definitely read the book. But the Piper and Harvest, definitely. Obviously, we're looking at this pagan tradition here, and the harvest is related to pagan rites. The Green Woman and Bravely Go. I love these two together. I love that there's so much resonance between these two decks, and the art style is very similar. Perhaps the color palette is slightly different, but the art style is so similar that it actually doesn't matter. They do have different thickness to that. I don't know if you can tell. Obviously, this is the Oracle cards are thicker than the Wisdom of the Wild Things Oracle cards are thicker than the Brian Froud cards, but it doesn't matter. So I will definitely have to look into this a bit more, especially when I will be reading the guidebook, because I do believe, wow, okay, these two are very similar as well. So we've got the Oak Man in here and Alchemize Pain. Transform. That alchemy is the science of transformation. So it's an invitation to actually transform that kind of pain into something useful. Instead of being something that holds you back, use it as some kind of a source of energy. With the Oak Man, I wish I knew more about the Brian Froud deck. I didn't have a lot of time to study that deck. I got it in combination with the Witch Sister Tarot because I feel that they pair up really well together. However, I am so behind on everything that I want to do. The month of April and the first couple of weeks in the month of May have been so busy. It's crazy. This year, I don't know if I'm the only one, but do you feel like this year is really odd? It's very special, between brackets. Mind that monkey with death. Wow, that's very important, I would say. Beware the shame creature. My goodness, that's an amazing card. Shame is a creature. It's got its own physiology, let me tell you. Topsy-turvy. Anyway, these two, I think that we've got two winning pairs, both the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot and the Fairies Oracle by Brian Froud. I feel that we are in the same space, let's put it this way. But I'm very curious to know if you have the Wisdom of the Wild Things. Let me know which deck you pair it with. And Now let's move on to the next deck. So we're just going to put these away. I know, actually, sorry, I even said that I was going to pull a card and have a look at the guidebook. So this is exactly what I'm going to do before we move on to a different deck. So let me just see quickly. And this one, retract. Okay. Okay, let's see what the guidebook says on retract, which is number 15. So we go to number 15 in the guidebook. Now is the moment to withdraw, protect. Just as your possum will play dead when threatened, so too must you lay low and observe. While retracting from life is no way to live, it will serve you for short periods of time. Whatever quandary you find yourself in right now, seclusion and quiet are powerful allies. Await inspiration for your next move. Create a gentle environment for your spirit, heart, mind, and body. Go into the deep woods of your own psyche with curiosity and wonder. Contemplate. The right answer will arise by itself. Dare to trust. Let yourself off the hook. Does that give you Four of Swords vibe? That totally gives me Four of Swords vibe. Which is fine, because being sick, I think is probably the right thing to do, to just take care of myself. It's just that, you know, but we're so busy, there's so many things to do. Anyway, I really, really like this deck. I think I'm going to be very happy to use it. And now let's move on and pick another deck. So it's this one here. So let me just tell you, this one is the Dreamweaver's Oracle by Colette Baron-Reid, very famous, very prolific author as well. The illustrations are by Joel Nakamura. I know that name. I don't necessarily remember what other decks this author has created or illustrated. So just to keep up with the tally, I'm going to show you how much I spent on this one, and this was $18.50 Australian. So $18.50, that's a really reasonable price, I have to say. It's a Hay House, I think, is it? Okay, yes, it is a Hay House deck. And let me just have a look. So the only reason why I bought it, it was because of this image on the front of the box. I really, really like it. I think it's a tiger slash big cat sleeping, napping on a moon and just reaching out for a star. And I really like that. So the Dreamweaver's Oracle, I think the concept is quite clear. And it talks about the connection we can actually form through sleep and through dreams. So this is the guidebook. It's a deck that has been released in 2023, but I haven't seen it around much. I don't know why. I had the impression, because I couldn't really see it, I couldn't really watch a walkthrough of it. So I have the impression that perhaps the cards are not necessarily, let's say, intuitive much, but I'm willing to give it a try. And, you know, because I had this voucher for $100 and you cannot get that much, to be honest with you. This one was very affordable, $18.50. So I'm willing to give it a try, because I also want to see if I can use it in combination with dream work or lucid dreaming. I have recently rehomed the Lucid Living, Lucid Dreaming deck, not because I didn't like it, I liked it a lot. It's just that I had, let's say, I had finished my work with it. You are more than you know, meant for a magical, meaningful life. Yes, absolutely. And this is the typical Hay House deck. So as you would know, the cardstock is very cardboard feel. And I like it though, because it fans out really well. It's not easy to shuffle for me because I have small hands and I do have injuries in my fingers. And so this is not an easy deck to shuffle. However, it feels like it can be easily shuffled overhand that way. But let's have a look at the cards first. So as you can tell, it's a very busy deck. It's got a lot of elements. So this card says, when the storm spirits play. I like that. Let the fire dragons sleep. Okay. When Coyote calls your name. Oh, it feels very shamanic. These are the backs, by the way. They're really beautiful. It feels like this is really first impression, guys. So I might change my mind. I do reserve the right to change my mind when I actually start reading with this deck, when I start using it, when I start reading the guidebook through and through. As I often do sometimes. I don't have any problem in admitting that sometimes I'm wrong. I mean, it happens. First impressions are what they are, first impressions. I love this card. I mean, I am a sucker for marine life. Obviously, living in Australia, I have access to it. And for many years, I lived by the sea, by the ocean. So obviously, whales. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically, we always witness from the shore, especially when I used to live in the coast. We can witness the migration of the whales. So sometimes we see southern right whales. Sometimes we see, I think, blue whales. I'm not an expert, so I could be completely wrong, but we also see these type of whales, which I know the name in Italian, but I don't know the name in English. Sorry about that. It's Capodoglio in Italian. So I really, really enjoy that card. I think it's very nice. What does it say, actually? Even wisdom needs to rest. Oh, that's very nice. I went once to a Pacific island named Tonga. And Tonga is an archipelago, so the islands we were in, I don't remember what it was called, but it was absolutely amazing because you could swim with the whales, and we did that a couple of times. It was fantastic. They were coming very close to the shore because they were calving. So you would be swimming with the mummy and the baby whale, and it was an absolutely mesmerizing experience. Very hard because you had to swim a lot. You had to swim back and forth, but you had to swim for hours. And there were security, safety measures, obviously, so you couldn't get too close and stuff like that, but it was absolutely worth it. Really a wonderful experience. Tonga is a wonderful place. Quite different, I have to say. It was 10 years ago, but it was very different from other Pacific islands that are 90% of them covered by resorts by now. Tonga is, at least the island we were in was very wild. There was just a couple of huts and we were sleeping in this hut, basically 30 meters from the ocean, which meant that you could not sleep because the waves were very noisy, and sometimes we were even sprayed by the waves. I kid you not. One night I woke up, I was completely soaked because there was really choppy waters, and we were almost flooded. But it's an experience, it's an adventure, and you know, we were laughing about it because, I mean, when you go to these places, that's what you need to expect. It's not a 4 or 5 stars resort, and so you know that it's going to be a little bit rough, but it was completely worth it, as I said. I love that there's a lot of marine themes, marine symbols, like this shell, for example. All is calm upon the shores. And I'm already thinking about what deck I could use to pair with this one, but I'm not entirely sure that this is one of the decks that you're meant to use with a tarot. Because it's a particular kind of practice. The practice of dream weaving is very special. This is the card that is at the front of the box. So it says, if a cat curls around the moon. Oh, it is a cat. See, it's a big boy. It's just a big boy. It's not a tiger. That is such an amazing card. And my cats look exactly like that when they nap. Most of the time they sit on my lap, which means that I can't move for hours at a time, but it's fine. We know the drill now. We just put water, for example, close to us, and I just curl up with a cat on my lap when a book to read, because I know there's going to be a long thing. As the Weaver's Way is true. I really love this deck. Not just the art style, I have to say, but I feel that the sentences that are on the cards are actually very intuitive. When you're neither here nor there. Look at that, how beautiful is this? There is a sense of peace also coming from the cards, acceptance and compassion. When the ones you need fly close. Oh, that's so beautiful. Meaningful connections, that's all about meaningful connections in life, guys. I always say that, always. And the last one here. Such a beautiful deck. I don't know why this deck is not more popular. Let me just do the same. So I don't think I have, or at least I couldn't think right now of a deck I can pair this with. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull one card from this deck without pairings. And we're going to have a look at the guidebook and what it says. But I'm quite happy because, as I said, $18.50 Australian, let me count that. It's about 11 US dollars. So don't be jealous if you think that $11 is so much cheaper than what you can buy for. I'm sorry if it's more expensive on Amazon US, but sometimes it is the price you have to pay to get access to the decks almost immediately upon release. We have to wait 3 to 6 months, so at least we have them cheap. I don't know what to say. Okay, so let's see if I pull a card now. And let's make it this one. Time to feed the hungry heart. Oh, okay. I'm actually hungry. I didn't have breakfast this morning. So let me see. This is number 25. So we go to number 25, which is here. Time to feed the hungry heart. Essential meaning, time out, self-care, and need to regroup and replenish. Is this another Four of Swords? Okay, I got 2 Four of Swords, consecutive Four of Swords. I think this is telling me to rest. There are times when you work so hard and move so fast, juggling so many things and putting others first, that you don't remember to take care of yourself. When this happens, you start to feel burnout. I'm not burned out, but I am sick, so I totally get it. Okay, fair enough, message received. I know that I have to rest and take care of myself. I'll take a hot bath. Fine, fine. But this is really beautiful. As I said, I really don't understand why it's not more popular. Perhaps because there are so many decks around these days. Do you feel like we're kind of overwhelmed by decks? It's like watching Netflix. There's so many shows, you end up spending half an hour choosing what to watch, and you just, you pick one show at the end of your search because you're kind of upset that you couldn't find anything that was completely shocking you. And then you settle for something that is not necessarily what you wanted to watch originally, but for some reason you couldn't find it. I don't know. I feel like my experience with Netflix is like that. And recently we've been using different apps in order to, for example, find categories on Netflix, which it makes it a lot easier. And I can tell you how our experience with Netflix has become a lot more interactive and a lot better. But I feel that recently there are so many decks around, whether they come from mass market producers or they're indie decks or Kickstarter indie decks. I feel that the choice, we've never been so spoiled for choice as we are right now. And sometimes that can actually bring out a little bit of overwhelm. And so I feel that sometimes we're actually missing out on really good decks and meaningful decks just because we don't see them, because we don't have the opportunity to see them. I feel that this deck is very affordable for the price that I paid for it. It's a really beautiful deck. I love the art style. Colette Baron Reid is one really well-known, popular and famous writer in the tarot community, and so I kind of trust everything that she releases, or at least I'm willing to keep an open mind and try them out. And it's come the time to see the last deck, but it's not the last deck of this video for today, but it's the last deck that I could actually afford with $100 on Amazon, with a $100 voucher. And this is a recommendation from one of my members. It's the Talisman Oracle. So let's just have a look at how much I spent on the Talisman Oracle. Which in Australian dollars is, let me show you here, it's the most expensive of these 3 decks, and it comes at $40.94. These are really odd prices, I might say. Why not 41 or 40? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's probably converted from the US prices. I have to say that this deck was on my wish list for a while, and then one of my members the other day told me that she got it, and she sent me a couple of photos and then reading that she's done, and I really, really liked it. And I had this voucher, and I thought, okay, I'm definitely gonna get it. And she's going to pair with the Nameless One tarot. I don't have that tarot deck, but there is one deck that I think will pair up really well with this oracle. But let's just have a look at the oracle for now. So let me just open it. So this is a US Games. Yes, it's also US game release. I will have to do a count one of these days because I feel like I have a lot more US game stacks than I have Los Carabao. Now, if you are following my channel, if you've been following my channel since the beginning, you will remember that about a year ago, it was the very beginning of the channel, I actually made a video that I called the Clash of the Titans between my Los Carabao decks and my US Games decks. And it came out even because I really wanted to find the winner between the two of them, and I was grading them according to the product quality, you know, the accessibility of the decks as well. And so it was a bit of a really intense video in which I was, you know, I was looking at a deck and I was saying, oh, definitely Los Carabao is going to win. And then I was looking at a US Games deck and I was saying, no, perhaps it's US Games is going to win. So it was really, at the end, you know, they came up on par because I believe that they both have pros and cons. I have to say, though, that after a year, in the last 12 months, I've probably acquired a lot more US Games decks than I have acquired Los Carabao decks. I'm not entirely sure though, and so I should probably do a count. Okay, this doesn't open completely, which is a bit of a problem because it tends to close back down. It's one of those really nice magnetic book-like closures. Maybe if I push it, but I don't want to ruin the spine, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to do like this. It's not really a problem at all. So this is a very special deck. If you are not familiar with this deck, it's actually very complex. It's got a few layers, and it comes with, of course, the deck, one guidebook, and this is what I imagine. By the way, really beautiful texture of this paper. I don't know if you can tell, but it looks like it's kind of satin. Really, really nice. And I think it's vellum paper inside. Yes, it is. So this is vellum paper. Vellum paper and tracing paper, let's say, very similar. And this is basically transparent because it lets you draw your own sigils out of these cards. I don't know whether I'm going to do this or not. There's a lot of these vellum papers, so you can actually go berserk if you want to. I do have a thing for sigils. So originally, at least my experience and my research on sigils was related to the language Enochian, which is the original language of the angels. And so sigils were based on Enochian. However, with time, I have seen a lot of different uses of sigils. And I also know that in many cases, for example, they come with the combination of letters of our alphabet in a different way, combined in a different way. There's a lot of manifestation work related to sigils. There's a lot of spells related to sigils, which seems to be something that is more pertaining to the tarot community, let's say. Whereas if we stick to the traditional concept of the word, let's say sigils related to the Enochian language, the sigils will vary. I have to say, anything related to languages is always fascinating for me, and so I actually did my toe in the Enochian language. It is really, really fascinating. But obviously, it's something that you need to take everything with a grain of salt. Let's put it this way. Now, this deck is still wrapped, so let me just go ahead and open it. Okay, so let's have a look at the guidebook first. So that's, you know, this is the second deck by US Games today. So this one was, well, it doesn't say what year. Yes, 2023 as well. Yeah, it figures because it's been on my wish list for a while. Introduction. Talisman Oracle is based on the principle that the power of intention is strong enough to bring us good luck. Everyone encounters rough moments in their lives, and we seek comfort to protect ourselves from the unknown or things we cannot control. Talismans are powerful tools that strengthen the power of our beliefs, which manifest into a desired outcome. They serve to guide our thoughts, empower us to take actions towards our goals, and form healthy new habits. Talismans amplify our own energy and establish an aura of positivity. Okay, that's interesting, obviously, how to use the deck. So it says you can use the Talisman Oracle in two ways, as a regular Oracle deck with messages for you, or you can use each card to create your own talisman. If you have questions or wish to examine a particular situation, draw a single card or use the suggested spreads in this guidebook. So it's got spreads, which is always welcome. I'm always willing to try the spreads that they suggest, unless they're the usual ones, okay? Past, present, and future. Almost every deck will come to a 3 cards pool. To be honest with you, I would prefer something more pertaining to the deck, which is this one, Talisman Spread. This spread looks into the different forces that need to balance before you are able to welcome abundance into your life. Okay, that's very helpful. First, shuffle the deck, then cut it in an odd number of times, preferably with your left hand. Okay. Card the position. So let's see. Subconscious feelings, possibilities or obstacles, best course of action, outside forces, your surrounding and family, driving forces, future outcome. That's really interesting. I'm actually going to try this one. And then obviously we've got the cards. I have to say the artwork in the cards is really beautiful. I don't think that this deck is popular as it should be, like the other decks I was talking about today, because unfortunately, when you look at it, the images that are available on Google Images are not paying it justice. I have seen walkthroughs of this deck, and the cards that I've seen, I'm going to see now, were really, really beautiful with, you know, an actual image on the cards and not just drawings. But for some reason, when you Google the images of this deck, you find the 3 or 4 images that are available on websites like Amazon, of course. And they're not necessarily, they don't tell the whole story. This one has the Big Wave by Okusai, and I absolutely love that. Safe travel. Yeah, perhaps the big wave is not exactly safe, but let's just out of curiosity, let's see what it says. You are on a journey into the unknown. You are in search of new or expanded understanding of yourself, others, nature, or a higher good. This experience opens your mind and lets you see a part of the puzzle you never knew existed. This card can mean it's time to take a pilgrimage, travel abroad, or an inner journey of introspection. This act is of great importance in knowing who you are and the meanings you are looking for. This card can mean a metaphorical journey into your own beliefs. It might be time to discover the constraints of the limiting thoughts we sometimes impose on ourselves. The Arctic Tern. Ah, there you go. It's an Arctic Tern. Okay, fair enough. Okay, I've been to Antarctica, not to the Arctic, but I think they migrate. A wise and experienced traveler will guide you towards the shore. Talisman power. Use this card before travel, and when you take a journey to discover your beliefs, imagine your soul lifting up from your body and being free to fly. Where will it go? Who will it meet? I am ready for this journey. I love that. I really love that. This is the, so I could be completely wrong. Please understand that I'm not an expert. However, there's a lot of birds that actually migrate from the North to the South Pole. We have been to Antarctica, and there were a lot of terns. And we were told that they travel incredible distances. So it could be that the Arctic tern actually travels to the south as well. If not, I apologize if it's a mistake. There were a lot of birds in Antarctica anyway. I do like the way in which it tells you that such a traveler, you know, even if it's not migrating to the south, it's still a really powerful bird. So I like to think that someone whose life evolves around pilgrimages is actually going to protect you in a journey. I really like this concept. So let's have a look at the cards now, because we like to see them. I love this gilding. So this is not just an edge, it's actually a gilding, but it's a brown-black with, you know, almost glimmers of silver, I would say. It really is very elegant, very beautiful. It makes the deck even more appealing. and it is in tone with the general color palette of the deck. So as you can tell, it's rather muted, but I don't mind because the artwork is fantastic. So we got balanced emotions, banish a curse, wow, blessed day, cast away negativity. I completely understand why this has been recommended to me, because it is a very powerful deck. I have no idea. So thank you. You know who you are. Thank you for recommending this. It's really beautiful. I'm very, very happy that I've actually purchased it myself. Divine Guidance, Elixir of Life, Equilibrium. That's beautiful. Look how beautiful the artwork is. I mean, the images on the deck are really amazing. And as I said, I don't think the images you can see, if you don't have the deck, the ones that are available online are not paying it justice, because you will see only one or two. But these, each and every one of them, I feel like it's got a really powerful meaning. And it's not just about sigils and, well, it's called Talisman, obviously, but it's referring back to sigils. So this is Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life, obviously. I really, really love this. Karmic justice, knowledge, absolutely amazing. Leadership with the tiger, yes, thank you. I love the tiger. I was born in the year of the tiger. Learn the truth, let go with the crab, that's nice. Luna, the moon. Magical power, mindfulness with a mantis, praying mantis. Navigation with, I believe this is a poisonous fish. I remember I was in Japan in an Okinawa restaurant once, and we had, we tasted this fish. Is it called fugu? I might be wrong. I think it's called fugu. And I remember that the chef was explaining to us that there is a very special way to cut around the poison on this fish, and if you ingest, it's actually almost lethal, or actually lethal. That let me tell you, we were kind of concerned when he told us that, but everyone else was enjoying it. No one was really scared or anything. So we're still alive. So, you know, it might mean that we were not poisoned. Overcome fear. Passion with the stag, beautiful. Protection, is this a monkey? I can't really tell, I think it is. Rebirth with the skull and the moth. Resilience with the fox, absolutely. Although a fox for me is also protection, because it comes from the kitsune and the meaning of the kitsune in the Japanese culture. And this is the Arctic tern, we just heard about it with the okusai, the big wave okusai. It is similar, it's not exactly the same, I guess. Success, union with the rhinos, willpower, and the octopus with wisdom. Absolutely, I could not agree more. Okay, so this is ironic because one of the decks I wanted to pair it with is actually the Octopus Tarot. So let's see how well they go together. So the Octopus Tarot, this is the French version because I bought it in a shop in Paris. And if you haven't watched my Tarot on Tour France video, I got it because the person I was speaking to at the shop was friends with the creator Luna Charlotte. So she was really pushing for me to buy, but I was like, I'm gonna buy it anyway. You don't have to sell it. You don't have to sell it. I'm gonna buy it. So let me just quickly shuffle this one. Okay, let's see how these two go together. And is there enough light? Yes, it's a gloomy day today in Sydney. Okay, so these are, again, if you're skipping ahead and you're just watching now, these are first impressions. So obviously, I don't know whether they pair up well together or not, but I already see that I like it. So we got the wisdom between the Cavalier d'Épée, which is the Knight of Swords, and Death. Wow, I'm loving this. Okay, we can see the wisdom of the Knight of Swords sometimes he's the one that goes against everyone else, and it does speak of resilience to me, because it's an idealist, but ideals to him, to them, are more important than what everyone else thinks. And so it just so happens that if you think about a crusader, for example, that is your archetype of the Knight of Swords, and so it's defending, you know, defending the people that cannot defend themselves. And so obviously there is a certain kind of wisdom that comes from that needs necessarily to be governing the intentions of the Knight of Swords. And we combine that with the kind of wisdom that we have in the Death card as well. The Death card, you know, is seen as the card that can identify everything that needs to be left behind, because in the cycle of life, it has reached its peak. And now it needs to leave some room for something new that arises. So I'm already liking this. But I'm always interested to know what you think, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Do you have the Talisman Oracle? Do you pair it with other decks? I know that it will pair up really well with the Nameless One Tarot, which I don't have, unfortunately. I think that it just cost a fortune to get it from the US to be shipped, because the book is rather large, I believe. And so obviously we have to pay something like $60 US just for shipping. Which is almost as much as the deck, I believe. So it's a lot of money. But in any case, I think that these two actually pair up really well. So let's see, we got leadership between the Four of Cups and the King of Swords. Absolutely. So that is one of the problems of the King of Swords sometimes, that he's reached a mature, or they have reached a maturity in the evolution of the core cards in the element of air, so the element of the mind, the suit of the mind, in such a way that sometimes they do reach that sense of inertia of the Four of Cups. So they're not, it's a sort of an evolution past the Queen. So the Queen still can relate to their own feelings, but when you get to the stage of the King of Swords, you kind of have that risk of leaving all the feelings behind and becoming going too much into your head. But that is sometimes needed in the context of leadership. Sometimes leaders need to shush the heart, let's say. Learn the truth between the Chariot and the Five of Wands. That's amazing. This one can be seen as the way in which the Five of Wands has such a fiery energy that you feel like you're in a contest. You're surrounded by hostility, but you don't necessarily understand why. And I always like to read it as the card that follows the Four of Wands, in which there is this extension of the dominion and the celebration of this union, but it's almost as if the guests were staying a bit too long there, and they got drunk, and now they're all aggressive to each other. They're not even knowing necessarily why they're fighting. And so there is a necessary movement outside of this fiery energy with the Chariot in order to understand what the truth really is. Knowledge with the Hermit, yes, definitely. Knowledge, you know, if there were a lamp in here, a lantern in here, most of the Hermit's card in other decks will show you that there's a lantern, and there's a lantern here. Now this is a source of light, but it's not necessarily in the shape of a lantern, but that's fine. Karmic justice with the Ten of Swords and the Nine of Wands. Wow. Am I the only one seeing this? This is crazy. This is really, really good. And intuition with the Hierophant and the Five of Cups. Yep. Happiness and healing energy with the Three of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune. That's really beautiful. Wow, just another couple of cards. I see the growth of energy with the Page of Swords and the Seven of Coins or Pentacles. Amazing. I am amazed at how good this pairing is, almost as if I wasn't going to try. I'm still going to try the other pairing, the other tarot deck that I wanted to pair with the Talisman Oracle. But it's going to be really hard to beat this, because I really believe that we are looking at a match made in heaven. Let me know what you think in the comments below, but I'll show you now how it pairs up with the True Black Tarot. So we're pairing it up with the True Black Tarot and the Ephemera Tarot, which are both by Arthur Wang. And these are indie decks. I believe both of them are still available in the creator's website. It is based in the US. These are not cheap decks, unfortunately, but the product value is exceptional. If you're not familiar with these decks, I highly recommend you check them out because they're absolutely gorgeous. Everything about them, from you know, the actual essence of the cards, the guidebook, and the cardstock is absolutely phenomenal. I really, really enjoy using them, and because they have a very similar vibe, but okay, how do I put this? They have a similar vibe, but almost the opposite kind of vibe, because the True Black is all about black backgrounds, and the use of light is very functional and very specific to illuminate only the symbols on the card that actually carry meaning. So it's really well done. And the ephemera is the opposite, because it's all about white, as you can see, and this one is incredibly beautiful as well. I have to say both of them are just a work of art. Obviously we have too many cards because we're using them together, so I have to take away a few cards from here and a few cards from here. I have to say, between these two, it really depends on what I'm going through. So I use the True Black Tarot when I want to do some shadow work, and I use the ephemera when I want to do some light work. But one exceptional thing to do, if you have the Soul Mirror Oracle by Sunshine Connolly, using that oracle together with these two decks is heaven. It's really fantastic. So let me just take a few more out because otherwise we're not level. So as you can see, I don't know, I think that this is, again, first impression. So please don't be mad if you don't think it's working. I did not try this out. As you can see, I got this Talisman Oracle. It was still wrapped, so I didn't really have an opportunity to try these pairings out. I'm basically doing an experiment, but I'm actually liking what I see, at least so far. I have to say that because of the background being dark, perhaps these two are suffering a bit from the pairing with a white deck, because obviously my camera is a bit struggling with the exposure, finding the right exposure right now. Apologies for that. I don't know whether I can fix it. I can probably fix it in the post-processing, on the editing of the video. Look how beautiful this card is. I really love these two decks. They're just absolutely magnificent. And I have to say, I'm quite happy to see this pairing with the Talisman Oracle. This is, again, first impressions, but let's see. For example, we've got the Divine Guidance, yes, between the High Priestess and the Obscurio. Now, if you're not familiar with the ephemera tarot, the major arcana's cards have been renamed, so obviously you will have to go back and forth to the guidebook in order to memorize what they are. But I have to say, they are quite intuitive, so it's not too difficult. But these two they're amazing. I mean, the creativity between the Hangman and the Seven of Swords, for example, there's always a bit of creativity involved in the Seven of Swords. There's no two ways around that. You need to be cunning. You need to be aware of what you need to do in order to get out of that situation you find yourself in, that forces you to do things in a not exactly the way you would want them to be. And the creativity, you know, that comes also from looking at things in a different perspective, thanks to the Hangman. And then concealment here. And we have change with the Chariot and continuum. That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. Change and continuum is obviously about transformation. So establishing this circularity or continuity in life. Movement is life, and obviously when we create a continuum, we also assure preservation of life. And the Chariot is giving you the possibility to reach or to gather all the necessary skills that you need in order to create this kind of continuum situation. This is really nice. Banish a curse with the fighter. That's really, really beautiful. I am aware that you cannot probably see the titles on the True Black. Probably you can, the ones from the ephemera. What happens is that, let me just show you what happens in this deck. As you can see, in real life, it's going to be a completely different experience than through the camera, because you do have this kind of foiling that actually shows you the title. So this is the strength card, for example. So if you're concerned that this deck is not going to be accessible because you're not going to be able to read the titles, I can assure you that in real life, it's actually very accessible. Balance the motion. This is the Tower card. So balance the motion between the Tower card and the Queen of Wands. That's really beautiful. There is this sense of ethereal kind of vibes that I really, really enjoy. So I think personally, I actually prefer the pairing with the Octopus Tarot. I think it was more accessible in a way. This is more for aesthetic purposes, is really beautiful. But I think that when it comes to readings, I actually do prefer the Octopus Tarot. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And that was it for what concerns the $100 that I spent on Amazon. So just to summarize, and I'll show you here. So just to summarize, okay, here we've got the 36.66 for the Wisdom of the Wild Things Oracle. Then we got $40.94 for the Talisman Oracle, and we got $18.50 for the Dream Weavers, and I believe it comes to a total of $96.10 for these three items. So this was a bit of an experiment. I really wanted to see what I could get out of Amazon, let's say with a voucher of $100. And this is what you could get. Obviously, it really depends on what you like. Because different decks have got different prices, but I think it was a kind of a fun thing to do. Now let's have a look, because I also have another deck, which is actually a deck that I acquired from a friend in the tarot community, and it's an independent deck, and I think the copy she sent me is from the Kickstarter, and it's called the Cervono Torne Tarot. So you will probably remember this Kickstarter. It was a Kickstarter from a few months ago. So 2023 in any case. And when I saw it, I fell in love with the colors. I was like, no, yeah, I absolutely need this deck. It's so beautiful. It is a very, let's say, the choice of color palette is very defined. As you can see, we've got white, black, and red. It's kind of a blood red. It's a really, really nice artwork as well. I actually really do enjoy the artwork in here. It is a, let's say, RWS clone, even though in some cases we see there's a bit of a personal take on the card. So we've got the Death card in here, we got the Sun here, for example, the Wheel of Fortune. The World is a really beautiful one. It does remind me a little bit of Liberty style of Art Deco and such. The Devil, I like that it's two skeletons. The usual Three of Swords, but we know the drill. Perhaps the minors are rather pippish, I have to say, but I absolutely do not mind, because not all of them, some of them are pippish, some of them are not. Let's put it this way. So the Nine of Swords, for example, it's got all of the elements, and the Ten of Swords as well, but the Six of Swords is it's still telling you the story, so I really enjoy that. And so the reason why I actually got this deck was because lately I've been really into one Oracle deck, and this Oracle deck was rather difficult for me to pair up with a Tarot deck, and I was really waiting for a Tarot deck that would have shared at least the same color palette. And by this you'll be able to probably guess which Oracle deck I'm talking about, and it's this one here. Ta-da! So the Oracle of the Witch, Reclaim Your Birthright by Flavia Kate Peters, Barbara Michael John Free. And this one has been illustrated by Mira Nurdianti. Now, Mira, I actually met her because she came to Sydney for the Oddities and Curiosity Expo. And she was selling her decks and a lot of other stuff that I bought because I really, really enjoy her art style. And I wanted, so this deck has a bit of a story in the background, because I had two copies because I bought one from her, and then I got home and I kind of knew that I had it. I kind of knew that I already had this deck. But I didn't mind because obviously, you know, it was nice to talk to her, and she's lovely, and she was talking about this Oracle deck. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to buy another copy of it, so it's fine. And now I have 2 copies, so I'm going to rehome one of them, and I think I know already who's going to take it. By the way, I do 1 rehoming video per month, but I do reserve the early access to that video to my members because it's part of their perks. So by the time I actually release the video to the general subscribers, most of the time all the decks are gone. But if you're interested, you can always reach out. So how beautiful are these 2 together? When I looked at the tarot deck, online, I was looking at the images, and I really thought, okay, this is going to be perfect for this kind of pairing. And these are exactly the same colors. I mean, obviously black is black, but white could be different. It's got different gradation of white. And, you know, red could be a number of different shades. So obviously it was really a surprise when I actually paired them up together for the first time, and I saw that it was exactly the same kind of red. Now, it may appear different simply because these cards are semi-gloss and these cards are actually matte. So obviously it will have a different kind of reflection. But I can assure you it's exactly the same color, and it's really, really beautiful. And I have to say, it really looks like it's a very similar kind of art style as well. And they just pair up so nicely together. I'm so stoked to have these 2. I'm really, really happy to be able to use them. And I will definitely look into what kind of practice I can use this deck for. Because it feels like it's a lot related to meditation, not necessarily to divination. The only thing that I have to say about this deck is that there are 2 titles. So in this case, for example, card number 16 says Not Magic. And then in here, it also says Binding. But I have to say, because it's red, it's small letters in red on a black background, it's not that easy to read. So that is the one thing that I would have preferred that to be in white as well, but that's not a big deal. I just have to wear my glasses, which is fine. I probably should wear my glasses now on a permanent basis, but I'm lazy and I'm not. Raise your hand if you're postponing wearing glasses. Well, there you go, the crone. Absolutely. Did you feel like I was calling you? Hi. So it's really beautiful though. Look at the combination of the cards. It's absolutely amazing. So really, really happy with this recent tarot and oracle decks haul. But let me know in the comments below if you have bought some recent decks you really, really enjoyed, because I'm always on the lookout for new decks and new ways to use decks that I've got, perhaps in a new pairing or a new way of using my practice. So it's always very interesting. That was it for today though. So thanks so much for staying with me till the end of this video. Have a great day.